Okay,
Chair Velasquez will have the interpreter announce her services today.
yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Buenas tardes. Si ustedes necesitan el servicio del intérprete de español, por favor, acérquense aquí a la mesa o levanten la mano y yo les voy a llevar el equipo. Muchas gracias. Okay.
You had a volunteer to make love to see you or you?
Two, and I'm just about to give up.
Okay, all those who have cell phones, pagers, or the like, please set them aside to silent mode or turn them off. Of course, this does not apply to on-duty emergency personnel. If you wish to address the commission, you must stand and be recognized at the podium and give your name and address. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes and one appearance per subject.
Sorry to interrupt. Can you turn on your mic?
It is on. Maybe closer.
Chair Velasquez, let's ask Stella to give roll call, please.
Okay. Roll call.
Chairperson Gloria Velasquez,
Present.
Commissioner Tencia Vargas, Commissioner Adrian Faco,
Present.
Commissioner Alex Ramirez,
Present.
Commissioner Delia Gutierrez. Present.
And welcome, Delia, to your first planning commission of 2025. Welcome.
Welcome. Okay. This meeting is being conducted in accordance with the State of California Executive Order N 2920 dated March 17, 2020. Regarding the COVID pandemic, the public may participate in person or online via Zoom or call 1-669-900-6833 and use meeting ID number 822-0611-989. If you wish to make a general public comment or comment on a specific agenda item, please raise your hand function. You will be allowed 3 minutes to make your comments. If you choose not to attend the meeting but wish to comment on a specific agenda item, please submit your comment limited to 250 words or less by noon of the day of the meeting to the city clerk. Business from the public. Business from the public not on the agenda. Any member of the public may address the commission for a period not to exceed 2 minutes or on any subject not on the agenda. The commission will listen to all communication, but take no action. Consent agenda. All matters listed under the consent agenda are considered routine by the city commission and will be adopted one by one action of the commission unless any commission member has a question or wishes to make a statement to discuss an item. In that event, the chairperson will remove the item from the consent calendar for separate consideration. Okay.
Chair Velasquez, I believe we're going to recognize that when you open the floor to business for the public, that no one chose to speak and to address the commission, and that period closed. And then you went on to now announce the consent agenda, of which you've introduced. Thank you very much.
Okay. Now, item number 3, Planning Commission, regular meeting for the minutes of March 13, 2025. Which are on our
March
screen
10.
here.
The typo, sorry, March 10.
March 10, 2025. Okay,
One moment, please. Anna, we have new arrivals. Would you see if they would like translation services? I'm sorry to keep interrupting.
That's right. Okay, the minutes for the March 10th are on our screen. If anybody have any additions, corrections, submissions after looking it over again? Okay, to have a motion to approve those meetings?
Move
March
to,
10.
I move to approve the regular planning commission meeting minutes from March 13, 2025.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Yeah, okay, motion
And
passes.
thank you. Just for clarification, it's a little typo. It was March 10th that you took all that,
March 10th.
all
March
that big
10th.
action on the 25th. Thank you. Thank you for that.
That's correct.
So Chairwoman Velasquez, I'll kind of introduce number 4 here. This is we're supposed to do this the first meeting of the new year. Although we've only had one meeting, which was the big housing element, but this is the time where reorganization of the Planning Commission can be considered for nomination of chairperson, as well as a nomination for chair pro tem, basically second in charge if the chairperson is not available. So with that, I will be quiet, and as the commission may entertain a motion and a recommendation for chairperson, and they'll take a motion and a vote on that. And then we'll raise the question for chair pro tem and take a vote on that if there's a second for that nomination. And then if the chairperson seat changes, we'll do a little bit of musical chairs for just a moment. So with that, I turn it back to you, Chair Velasquez, to entertain nominations for reorganization of the Planning Commission. Refresh, we would do this yearly.
Okay, anybody have, first of all, anybody want to volunteer? No volunteers, okay, and I have one that, but I don't know if anybody else has any, so. Okay, I nominate Tencia for the chair.
I'm sorry, the name,
I nominate Tencia for the chair.
Tencia.
Mhm. What do you say?
I accept the
Okay,
nomination.
okay, so
I just helped there. There's a
Second motion.
recommendation for Tencia Vargas to be chair, and she's said she's willing. Is there a second?
I second, well, I nominated, so it's,
I'll second. Oh, go ahead. I'll second it.
Planning Commissioner Alex Ramirez has seconded the motion. Would the commissioners care to take a vote on the motion on the floor?
okay, I approve. I nominated, so.
I approve.
We're gonna approve the motion. Yes,
Yes.
approve the motion. I approve.
Okay.
Vote yourself in.
Tencia?
I approve. Thank you.
So thank you. Five votes to zero is the second, and the nomination for Tensia Vargas to be the new planning chairperson of the city of Gonzales. Thank you very much. We'll change seats in just a moment. Your former pro tem moved to another city and that was Ernesto,
Mhm.
and he held the pro tem position.
Right.
And so we need to fill that position today. You get a new nameplate, by the way, with these positions. So would there be a nomination, and we kind of want to hear confirmation if you're willing, and a second for chairperson pro tem.
Come on, folks. Volunteers? No volunteers? Okay, very good, Alex. Okay, Alex has volunteered.
A
And
volunteer is not a
as a
motion.
volunteer, yes. Okay, so we are gonna vote on the motion. Alex, thank you very much for volunteering. So to be vote,
Are you going to make a motion?
yes, that's what I said. A motion to accept Alex, he has accepted. So motion to accept Alex.
I'll second it.
Us,
Yeah, okay. So Alex is our new pro temp.
so we got to vote for that,
Yeah, we did.
all across.
All right, for the record, for you watching at home, Gloria Velasquez has nominated Alex Ramirez to be the chair pro tem of the City of Gonzales Planning Commission. Mr. Ramirez has expressed a willingness to hold that position. And now there was a second made for that. And now among the five of you, would you please give an audible yay or nay vote for Alex Ramirez to be mayor, chairperson pro tem?
Yes.
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 There's no pay increase, by the way. All right, Alex Ramirez is now the mayor of the chairperson pro tem for the city of Gonzales Planning Commission. Tensia and, excuse me, Chairwoman Tensia, would you and Gloria please exchange positions? Thank you. Oops. All right, that was the fun stuff. I playfully like to offer, if you haven't hit the gavel before, that you can kind of do a ceremonial tap just to feel it. All right, there we go. We're in session.
There you go. Thank you so much. Yeah. Can I get a printout? Do we have a printout of the agenda?
Yes, you may.
Just the agenda. Thank you. Next on the agenda is our regular agenda is number 5. Consider approval of resolution number PC 2025-07.
08 and 09.
I'm sorry,
I don't think you have to read.
you don't want me to read all of it? Okay.
Introduce plan.
Resolution, okay, so it's 2025-07, 08, and 09.
Thank you.
Staff report.
All right, so thank you. As we get started here, I'd like to introduce that we're going to have a PowerPoint presentation. It was quite a thick packet that you have. But as a background to the 6-cycle housing element, I just, before I get into the slides, just announced that it's really been a public participation process for several years. We've had events at the park where we've asked and had surveys in Spanish and English on what are people's needs. There have been study sessions with and without the city council together where we've invited people to speak and learn about items that are going to be in this policy document that addresses the future of housing opportunities, and, kind of the rulemaking that'll go forward for the next several years. We've also, for public participation, we've been out on social media, which includes Instagram and the city's website, and we've done our best to have both Spanish and English versions that people can be made aware of meetings such as this right here. We've also informed and let the school district know that we're considering new housing policy, that I brought draft housing element policies all the way to the county library up on Fifth Street and met with the librarian to share what those notes were and that they could contact City Hall. And boy, we've also got kind of Appendix C here, which is what added weight and all those pages to your packet, but we don't know why we did it, but it's all 500 pages of the surveys that are both in English and Spanish, trying to discern what the needs of Gonzales residents are for housing and how to go about living here. So in these surveys was a constant theme that came out. One of the constant themes of what we need in Gonzales are more housing, affordable housing for first-time home buyers, housing in some lower price ranges, not just full market rate, but a spectrum of housing, and also low cost and a lower cost and rental housing. So the housing element before you today, this policy document updates the older fifth cycle housing element before, which was also during the COVID period and had periods of recession in it, and we really didn't build all that much housing. So part of this project you're going to hear today is like, what didn't work last time? What do the people need? What are the resources on the ground? And what can we as a government agency do to shepherd and find a way for more housing to be constructed that's safe and that meets many, if not all, of our income ranges? And also, just because it's been a while, it's going to bring the city current with a lot of state laws and legislation and enabling efforts at the state. You've all heard from the state government that we want ADUs and we want more housing. And, dear cities, don't slow down. If someone wants to build an ADU, you need to allow that. So our what's before you today are actions that will have us finally be current with state laws as they are now in 2025. And so right before I touch the slides here, I want to say that there were 4 key attachments to your project, to your staff report. One of those, the last one being this PowerPoint, but the first 3, as we'll see on the last slide, are the resolutions that we're going to ask the City Planning Commission to take action on. Attachment A, or is it attachment 1, is the resolution making a CEQA environmental determination on the general plan action and the city and the zoning action. Instead of an environmental impact report, here we go. We have one more, Anna. We have, there we go. So the CEQA determination, California Environmental Quality Act, is we did not have to do a whole EIR on this. We found exemptions where the state allows us to consider this policy and the new rule sets and the new changes on the books. Attachment number 2 is a resolution that contains the general plan amendment regarding adopting the new housing element and some language in the industrial section that we'll hit a slide on. And attachment number 3 is a resolution recommending adoption of the new zoning definitions and some of the new codes that we need to bring current into the city, including some new zoning designations that we'll speak about. One's called an affordable housing overlay for workers, that the proposal is to allow that in our industrial districts where housing could be proposed so that workers could have access to affordable housing in those districts. So with that, I'm going to turn some slides. And I want to apologize a little bit because can be very complex and some of it still feels like it's over my head. But I don't want to speak so broadly that we take all night. And I don't want to speak I don't want to speak in so much detail that we take all night. I don't want to speak so broadly that we don't understand what's going on. So I'll get to these points where I kind of quiet, and it might be good to hear a question or two back and forth from the planning commission to help us get focused, or even with the gallery. So with that, I'll turn the next slide. And so basically, we're kind of talking about what is this section of the general plan, the housing element that's in front of you. And we'll talk about the pieces of it and how it came together a little briefly. So the slides ahead is going to give an overview of the housing element, how we meet the regional housing needs, the State Office of Housing and Community Development, their review and comments. The rezone effort to meet RHNA, and that stands for Regional Housing Needs Allocation. And that's where the regional government kind of tells each city what their goals for providing housing in their own community are. We'll talk about some of the zoning text amendments so that we're current with law, touch again on the environmental review, one slide on the schedule, and then we'll be asking for your recommendation to City Council. So once again, the action today is not to approve the document or deny or anything, it was to consider the matter and hopefully get your recommendation to the City Council that you believe that this document is in order and worthy of the City Council adopting and making the law of the land, the new rules. So so I'll try to catch myself from being too detailed, too slow, or too broad, but let's go here. The next slide talks about what's in a housing element, and there's basically 5 sections. Is my speed okay for you? Okay, thank you. Next slide, please. So just generally about the housing element, it's one of 8 mandated elements of the general plan. Others might be circulation and land use and public safety, but one's called the housing element, part of the general plan, rules that the city needs to abide by in all of its decision-making has to be consistent with the general plan. The state says we need to update the housing section every 8 years. And actually, we're a little behind. The state wanted us to adopt the 6th cycle here by December 31st of 2023. But there were so many requirements on 6th cycle housing element that not many cities made that deadline. But here we are, maybe on the cusp of finally getting ours adopted. And the main thing is that we're supposed to accommodate our jurisdiction's, quote, fair share of the regional housing need. And we can talk about that in a little bit. Next slide, please. Oh, almost hard to read from here. I don't have it. But yeah, it's basically, there's 5 main sections. Housing needs assessment is in here, which talks about, our people, our demographic trends, their income levels and socioeconomic backgrounds. This is on the edge of my site. Special needs populations, are we addressing like single mothers? Are we addressing elders who need care? Or are there special types of housing that we might need? Here in Gonzales in particular, large families as well as small families. The second blue box is that this document includes an assessment of fair housing. And the sections underneath are how the city did outreach. And what was our criteria on fair housing. Also a site inventory, where are the sites available for housing? And that's one thing we found out historically in Gonzales is unlike Soledad and Greenfield, we don't really have much vacant available land in our city. We've got one big parcel out there owned by the Diarrigos on the east side of 101, but it hasn't developed. Otherwise, the land in the city is kind of built out, but we had to do We had to identify where sites were available for us to build new housing as best we could. Consulting, boy, I'm right on the edge of my vision here. The third box, what are the constraints to housing development? And you always think about what are the governmental and non-governmental constraints? Are the fees too expensive? Are the processes and procedures so expensive that no one wants to put a proposal on the table? And so the housing element has a moment of self-evaluation. Are there things that we can do as a governmental agency to reduce the barriers at the front counter, reduce the financial barriers, and in some way find incentives for let's turn that off. Find incentives for housing to be built in the city. Oh, great! That's right over my reading place there. You know what? I printed out and I left it on the printer.
Well, it's market trends, environmental and infrastructure.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, what are the constraints to housing development? Good, governmental yeah, market trends, environmental constraints. We're still in the middle blue box here. So let's say we're looking for new places for housing. We say, hey, how about right there? It looks like 3 acres. But you know what? If it floods 3 times a year, that's not a good place for housing. So what are those environmental constraints? Other places I've lived, there's, earthquake, not just earthquake shaking, but there's the fault. And you don't build right next to those. So we have to have real consideration of the environment and infrastructure. Do we have enough sewer capacity, water and electricity and highway stuff? Yeah, and the other 2 boxes are resources and site inventory. We're gonna talk about zoning, ADUs, and policies and programs. So that last box and the black box underneath the last blue box, we have to do the evaluation of the last element. How was it done well? Did we get housing with the last element or not? If there was programs and procedures that didn't work, maybe we retire those. Maybe we need something new. So just broadly, one of the things in the 5th cycle, the last cycle, was cities still had redevelopment agencies where we could have money to reinvest and we could actually offer land and actually do some construction or have enough revenue that we could fund a first-time home buyer program or we could fund some things like that. Well, that was the last cycle and those kind of things, we don't have redevelopment anymore. So we're having to find new ways. And of course, the last box there is identify new programs. So that's a lot right now. I'm going to go into some other slides where there's some questions, something about my speed or detail or anything you might have. Okay. No, I will
No,
move on to the
we're
next slide then.
not on this part.
And I do want to let you know that I have more information on the slide than I'm going to speak to. There's going to be some that I read through and some that I don't, but we're going to be here. So in front of you here are the AMBAG, which stands for Association of Monterey Bay Area Governments, Regional Housing Needs Assessment Summary. And they've assigned for the city of Gonzales that we demonstrate that our land areas can accommodate at least 1,266 new units. And they want us to pay particular attention to those 4 categories that you see, that we give attention to providing land areas for very low income homes, low income homes, people that make a moderate income. And a moderate income here in Gonzales is if you earn 80% to 120% of the average, the median income. That's what moderate is. So very low and low or less than 80% income. And then above moderate Look at that, 657 units. The area government thought that we needed full market rate homes to be able to be built here in the Gonzales region. Yes, Commissioner Velasquez,
Yes, we're,
to the microphone,
Wait.
please.
I guess, I don't know what to say, that we were mandated for that amount of 1,266. But how did you come up with the numbers, like very low income, 173 and lows 115? How did you come up with that, with those numbers?
Yeah, that's a really great question. And, you know, this process for our housing elements taken about 2 years. It took 2 years to work through about 9 or 15 criteria at the area of Monterey Bay area governments to determine these numbers. They determined a number for the county as a whole. Then they divided that number among the cities and the unincorporated Monterey County. And they had a lot of criteria where are their resources? Where are their infrastructure? Where are there some really strong needs? And so I cannot give you a nice tight answer on that, but it went through about 15 or 20 different filters over a year and a half or many years' time, of which the city had representation at AMBAG through assignment of, I think, one or two of our electeds. So a lot of criteria.
For clarification purposes, it's not something that the city designated or assigned. It's something that AMBAG decided. They're the ones that decide, not the city.
Yeah, so the criteria per city. I mean, you had X amount of homes for this category, and that divided into the cities. And Gonzales has to have 173 of these and 115 of these based on the criteria.
Correct. And that criteria was filtered against, you know, even, you know, Carmel and the other
Mhm.
cities, and it generated those numbers. So they didn't change the criteria city to city. That was the same filter.
Because it seems like Monterey has a whole lot more. Well, it's a bigger place to begin with, but, you know, 1,100 some very low.
Well,
That's-
yeah, and look at that number where they kind of almost half of the numbers are in the very low and
Mhm.
low income range. So think of some big apartment blocks there. I find that very interesting. So one thing came up as I was discussing this with somebody is look at unincorporated Monterey County at the very bottom. Well, Monterey County is thousands of square miles, right? Thousand, not 2 or 3 square miles of Gonzales. How come their number is only 3,000? Look, Selena's got 6,600. Well, in unincorporated Monterey County, they don't have the sewer plants and the water plants or even electricity. It's rural lands and often mountainous and grazing lands. The infrastructure to serve people and houses is in the cities or right next to the cities. We can kind of plug into the existing utility services. And so that's why you'll see higher numbers there and maybe lower numbers for Monterey County. So if there's another question, I could try to answer it, but that's a complex table that was a lot of political stew working through that. What we did know is if one city really resisted their numbers, say, hey, before you ink that, you know, we don't think we should provide that much. The Monterey Bay governments and the state said, yeah, but you need the same number at the county regardless. And so what that did was it would put us against our, well, we don't want to do that 100. So maybe one of the other cities could take 100 or something like that. And so it's like, it was a battle and a conversation that not many cities wanted to do. They just tried to get the best number they could at the beginning and took it. If I could. All right. So left to right says very low, low, moderate, and above moderate. And on the next slide, we kind of have those same categories. Estella, if you could do the next slide. You see on the left, the income category, very low, low, moderate. And so this is a discussion of how much land area and where could we build such housing, and our consultant using the 1,266 number, and also how many ADUs, because that's the new housing construction that's actually been built here. All right, and they came up with the number 40. And 40 represents about an average of 5 ADUs each year for the 8 years of the housing cycle, of which we're already in a couple of years. We're already in like 2 years, but they think that the natural progression was the city would provide about 40 units. And then they started looking around some of the vacant sites and how much land those, how many houses of the different incomes could be in those different land areas. We determined that even without the Vista Lucia specific plan, that if we added a little zoning in the industrial district, that we could at least make many of these numbers for very low and moderate in our very low and low in our own city. So let me advance a slide or two to show you that. One more slide, please. So this is a discussion in the housing element here about available sites. And if you see the big green, the two big green ones on the right, well, the one that kind of looks like an upside down axe handle, that's a piece that's in the city and also in the county a little bit. Actually, more of it's in the city now because we had the city expand with the Rianda Agricultural Cooler Project. But those green areas right there represent number 8A and 8B, 135 and 3, so 138 acres, where if you built at least 7 units per acre, which is our general plan, that you can get maybe 700 units in those areas. But that also, what you know is those properties have been offered for sale for many years and no one's purchased and they haven't been built on. But we can demonstrate to the state that if someone really wanted to, those houses could be built there. So even though we have this obligation for 1,266 homes to provide land area and opportunity to, the city itself doesn't build those, nor do we have the money. But we need the rule set to allow those things to happen. So that's kind of what we're discussing today. The other smaller numbers that you see in our industrial district, I've got a laser pointer, but I think it disappears on the screen. All right, well, all right, yeah, it kind of disappears. So the little number, here's our, it disappears. So I was talking, not this area now, but this area up here, there's 6 properties that have been identified in the industrial district that are now vacant. Ownership is by Diorigo, owns the one up here near Alta. I'll go here right below I wish this didn't disappear on the screen. And then the other 5 that are more off of Catherine Street are owned by Taylor Farms as well as Avo Company. And each one of those, if you see on the table, let me go, here we go. So the tables right here show that those they're about 2 acres apiece. And if we allow through your actions tonight and the city council's actions, a workforce housing overlay, it could be that someone could propose apartments for workforce housing that are at a minimum of 20 units per acre, but maybe as much as 30 units per acre. So those would be like 3-story apartments, 2 or 3-story apartments. Yes, Ms. Chairwoman.
You're referring to the ones in the left-hand side of the map, which is 1, 2, and 3?
1, 2, 3, and 4, 5. Yeah.
And then which one is the workforces that you're recommending? Is it 2 and 3?
All those.
All of them?
Industrial park,
Okay,
in the industrial district.
in the industrial
Even
area,
even that upper one on Alta.
east of, west of the Alta. Okay.
Yeah. And so, what that does is it still allows the industrial property owners to just, build or use it for their industrial purposes if they needed some kind of additional function to their processing and cooling and packaging and shipping. It's their property. But it also allows us to tell the state that housing could be constructed here if needed. And so, I was asked a question, is that a value added for the industrial owner? And I said, well, I don't quite know which one you're gonna get the bigger bang out of, industrial or agriculture. I have a feeling. Yes, Commissioner Ramirez?
Quick question. Would those numbers, if they build like apartments and stuff, would those contribute to the 73 units of very low housing?
Absolutely. That's where we get the credit for those. Exactly. And there's also been a question as well, what if that became the H2A temporary housing right there? Is that the kind of apartments and workforce housing you're talking about? Well, the state doesn't give us RHNA, the RENA credits for those. So we would not get credit towards the obligation we made with the state because it's not permanent, it's not longer term housing or year-round housing is a way to say it.
So the HTA would not qualify, of course, but if they choose not to go that way, they use it.
Correct. If you build something that was more akin to like what Tanamura and Antle has done in Spreckles, where they built, a nice new apartment complex for domestic workers that work on their properties, something like that. Yeah, that would give us credit with the state.
That would give us credit? I thought that's kind of H2A.
No, the one in Spreckles is not.
It's not, okay.
Yeah, that's my understanding that it's not. So kind of some complicated stuff, but really not all that complicated, but that's how we called it an available site and that we can kind of get credit for it. The state wanted to be sure that if you've all heard or kept up with the Vista Lucia specific plan that we're trying to get approved, that's coming a little bit later and needs blessing. It's not even on our city limit yet, but we hope to add our city limit around the Vista Lucia. The state wanted us to be able to assure that we have enough land area for a very low and low income housing in our existing city. And so the state said, if you do this housing element and adopt a zoning overlay, we'll let you count the math and we'll approve your housing element. So that's why it's here with you today. So with my own apologies, I don't know if I'm going too slow or too long, but we'll move to the next slide here. Estella, please. All right, so just a brief history is, even after the due date, due to our financing and how complex it was, our first submittal was to the state in February of 2024. And then we heard back from them 60 days later in May. Is that May? Wait, February, March, April, May, 90 days later. Then we had to work on all their comments, which was pages and pages of study this and look at this and look at that. We'll go over those briefly. And we give that back to them in May. Meanwhile, I changed environmental consultants because I had run out of money with the first submittal from a grant that the city had. And with the help of the state actually providing some consultant resources, we were able to make a second submittal to HCD in October. And then a Christmas present came to me when I wasn't even in the office on December 24th. And the state said, you are this close to approving getting a housing element approved if you add the zoning overlay. You add the zoning overlay, we'll give you, we'll let you get an adopted housing element. And let me just give one moment on that. Why is the housing element so important? Because when you're going for state monies and state grants and things like that for highway funds or even some other things, the folks in Sacramento, they look at your report card. Does the city, have they got all their reports in? Have they done, are their taxes current? Do they have anything? How about their housing element? Oh, the other cities have a housing element and they're already done and they're good. Maybe we should give our state money to someone whose house is in order. And so if we don't have a housing element that's been approved, we may go very far, we may go down on the list of being available for other state and federal funds. So it's really critical. but also in a larger sense, it's meant to empower and strengthen the neighborhood and the environment for investment and to result in newer housing. And we need new housing. So that was my little diatribe, sorry. My little sidebar editorial. Could I have the next slide? And I'll try to move a little faster because some of the other slides are very much in detail and I don't want to go right there. So some of the things that housing and community development wanted us to get back in here and strengthen was that our program accomplishments for special needs populations that we've reached out to single mothers or seniors or made sure our meetings are in bilingual so that we meet the needs and we bring those things back for programs and add it here. Yeah, so I'm not going to read everything, but they wanted us to sharpen up our housing needs assessment as well. Next slide, please. And they wanted us to strengthen our fair housing analysis. Yeah, there's those things and they've been in your packet. Next slide, please. And they wanted us to discuss a little bit more about the constraints in the community. So maybe an analysis for site plan permit approval findings that we needed to make it a little more streamlined. They wanted us to discuss the fees for both single family and multifamily development. And we also just, a little housekeeping, make sure that we say that any new housing has to be consistent with building codes. So a lot of this is administrative and I don't need to get into every detail, but it's in the documents. Next slide, please. All right, so some of you have heard about the city project site on Alta where the city hoped to have Chispa build some senior housing. Well, with Chispa and also just the financial environment, so to build an affordable senior housing complex there, Chispa and others had to have all these different layers of grants and financing and different opportunities. Well, the financial environment has changed, like we all know lately, and some of those opportunities have stripped away. And any of the money that's even left for senior housing there, we would be in competition with other cities and other elements in the region. And it's just not looking tenable to Chispa right now. And so due to its uncertainty of being able to really provide housing there within the time span of this housing element, the city said we cannot add that site. We can't call it the 12 or 36 units that we hope to build there, not until we're a little more certain. So they took that away.
Kevin, where is that site that you're just talking about?
Can you go back to the city
It's-
picture?
It's right next to
Okay,
the dome.
so
Yeah.
It's right next to the
All
dome.
right, so it's on, you know where the gingerbread house on
Mhm,
Alta?
right there.
That's the
That's
site.
the one. Okay.
There we go. Spin forward and skip a few. I look at one more. All right, there we go. So at the bottom here, they also, remember the Arrigo site I talked about, the 135 and 138 acres? At one point, we had numbers that said it was just going to be built at max. And they wanted us to revise, maybe 75% of the maximum is a real number that you can get there. So they had us revise that. So a lot of details, maybe I can cut back a little bit. Next slide. Right, so what we had to do here is clarify that the coming Vista Lucia specific plan and those houses will provide additional capacity to meet our regional housing needs once the annexation is complete. So before the overlay zones and before the Vista Lucia gets approved, we didn't have that many opportunity sites. And so they wanted us to be able to stand alone without the Vista Lucia specific plan. Okay, I don't want to lose you guys. Let's go on. First, we basically added some new programs. One is parking standards. If you're going to build a new apartment complex, and we kind of reduced some of the parking standards. Generally, that might be for guest parking. It generally says, okay, for every, 3 apartments you build, make sure you provide 2 parking spaces for guest parking. Well, they kind of had us reduce that. They want us to make sure we provide more apartments than they want us to house people instead of house cars. And so we all know that's a battle around here for housing versus cars, but the state gives preference to housing people versus cars. We have a program that I've introduced a little bit about the affordable housing overlay and making sure that we have anti-displacement strategies. Yeah, it's a big complicated word here, but one of those is like, let's say you're in an older apartment and it needs repair. And the property owner is going to do the repairs and puts the family up in a hotel or somewhere else for a period of time while they do the repairs. The anti-displacement is offering that family the first chance, the first opportunity to go back in and occupy that space. So they need to be given that opportunity, but often what happens is the landlord increases the rent a little bit, and that itself might be out of reach. And it's beyond the reach of us here to dictate what the price of a rental is and how much those things are. Those are part of the marketplace. What we can do though is do our best to allow as much housing to be constructed as possible if we can. All right, next slides. Yeah, so let me just let you see, there's a dozen things that had the timeframes changed. We wanted to have the housing element done a year and a half ago, and some of the programs we had timelines. And so now that we're taking action here in July and August, we just had to update timeframes for all these programs. Next slide. And we had to give more objectives to another dozen programs here, including farm worker housing and vouchers. Yeah, so it's pretty detailed. I'd like you to know though that no one in the community, not even a planner, ever has to read one of these from front to back. Generally, you'll get a project and look at the sections you need. But we had to put that in the mix, so that's why it's taken so long to work on this. Next slide. We expanded some areas for a couple programs here. Next slide. And we added additional actions to several existing programs there, making sure like there's a zoning for a variety of housing types. And also, like we mentioned earlier, anti-displacement actions and providing incentives for affordable housing. And we had that recently with waiving some of the impact fees for ADU construction. Those are now retired though. Next slide, please. And they wanted us to talk more about us going into the park and getting community feedback and building 500-page surveys. Go ahead. Next slide. All right, so one of your actions today, we're nearing the end of the presentation, only a couple more slides, is we're asking you to do 2 things with the general plan. One is adopt the housing element, which is in the general plan, but also in the industrial manufacturing description, there had previously been no word or no allowance for housing, workforce or housing. And so since we're going to entertain workforce housing there, we needed to make sure that our guiding general plan documents kind of put the umbrella out there and allows us to make zoning and a way to implement that housing. And so this last line, the red line, is new language in the general plan. The multifamily residential units are permitted with the applicable housing overlay zone at a minimum density of 20 units per acre and a maximum density of 30 units per acre. So those would be about the most dense projects in the city if someone chose to build it. But we needed to show that our plans would, our general plan would allow it if someone wants to consider it. Big stuff. Aren't you glad this only comes around once every 8 years? Yeah. The next slide, please. Would you remind me of what slide count we're on now at the bottom? Year 25 and 27? That's okay. That's all right. All right, so this is just a reiteration of where we're asking the city council, the planning commission and city council's consideration to apply the affordable housing overlay. We do have representatives in the audience today that represent some of the property owners who may wish to speak to this a little bit later, but the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is where we, in one of your actions in, attachment resolution number 3, I think 709 would be to add these colors to the zoning map, adding the workforce housing overlay. That if those property owners could propose apartment units for their workers. Next slide. Yeah, we added some more zoning text here to comply with state law. We had some definitions that were added. As you can see on the screen, we can go into any one of those if you had a question. Next slide. All right, and we had to amend some other sections. There's this thing called density bonus that say you have 10 units per acre allowed, but if the builder proposes like super affordable housing for many people, they say the state obligates you to allow them increased density as an incentive, or they may say, you know, they have to have, you know, less setbacks, or since they would have proposed that maybe we, instead of having a 2-story height limit, we have to allow 3 stories so that they can build that affordable housing. So the density bonus has these little mechanisms where a developer could put the proposal on the table and the city is obligated to kind of be lenient with several rules to enable affordable housing, not just any development, but it's for those very low income housing units. You see a question on your face, Tensia? No?
No, just,
Okay.
I'm just for clarification. So if someone decides to use the density bonus, for example, setbacks are usually 10 to 15 feet. If they say, well, I only want 5-foot setbacks, but I'll guarantee that I'll go 3 levels.
Yeah, stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah, so it kind of it makes the development standards a little different. Next slide, please. And then we had to just make sure that the city had addressed adding some of these categories as housing unit types. And so those would be added to the zoning code as being allowed uses in residential zones and in different places of the city. Next slide. And we had to amend our parking standards or accessory dwelling units to comply with current laws. And one thing we've done to the R2 district, many people live in the R2 district right now in the city, like the county housing that's over here on the north side of town. There's other areas here near the downtown that are R2, multifamily district, where you say the apartments is on item number 3 there at the bottom. We're increasing the maximum density to 20 units per acre instead of 16. So think about that for a moment. What is that? It's not that someone has to build that housing, but let's just say there's 2 houses side by side that are owned by one person in the R2 district, and they need repair. Well, that person's going to decide, do I take them down and build 2 new houses? Or do I look at the rules and, oh, look, I can build as many as 20 units here per acre. And if I have this property and this property, maybe I've got about an acre. What if I propose an apartment unit here and maybe we can get 10 units in? So we're trying to incentivize where you don't necessarily lose those 2 homes, but yet at the end of the day, maybe gain 8 units if the zoning is more permissive to construct more units. It's a lot of talking, isn't it? Sorry. Next slide, please. And then we had to add new chapters, and there's a bunch there that we've seen. The second one is interesting, local education agency lands. These are things to be consistent with state law. You might have heard that the state said that school districts and churches could now use their own properties to provide housing for their workforce, or I guess for the church. I don't know if it's necessarily for the clergy or whatever, but they can provide housing on their lands. And so these sections right here are mainly us becoming consistent with state law, probably for the first time in a dozen years. We'll be up to snuff. So there's several categories there, including licensed residential care facilities. One more slide, please. All right, this is kind of addressing your first resolution, which is the environmental review that went into this document. And like I said, we did not have to do an environmental impact report. This is a matter of policy. This right here doesn't build anything. It doesn't change wind or fire or erosion on the ground. It's the colors on the map and a policy document. Once somebody builds something, there's potential environmental impact, but we're asking for CEQA exemptions that, you know, this document doesn't do really anything on the land. It should be exempt. But once somebody starts building something, we'll review the environmental review on that place. Next slide. Second to the last slide, folks. I hope you don't miss and want me to talk longer. But project schedule is we're here now at the Planning Commission July 14th. Should you take action today to recommend approval of these documents, we could get to City Council by August 4th. If there are items that you wish to discuss more in depth, or you need me to bring it back at a later date, which is fine, that's in your purview, we could come back at a later date, but staff believes, the staff recommends that we've got a strong document we've been working on for years that represents the, next slide, please. That represents the community's values and needs, with as much representation from the public as we can to provide a spectrum of housing and opportunities. Is it perfect? Maybe not, but I think it's doggone good. And also, staff is going to recommend adoption of each of these three resolutions. So you've done number one, which is conduct a notice public hearing. And there's three resolutions in front of you that are in the packet. We'll need actions separately with motions on each, please. Number two is please adopt a resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of Gonzales recommending that the City Council approve the common sense exemption to the California Environmental Quality Act. And it's supported by the technical memorandum that's attached in there. So there'll be a vote and a motion, a motion, a nomination, a second. You know how to do it. The second resolution is a resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of Gonzales recommending that the City Council approve the general plan amendments, which is the wording in the industrial zone, as well as making this whole general plan, this element part of the general plan. Item number 4 is adopt a resolution of the Planning Commission recommending that the City Council adopt the ordinance making the zoning and the text regulation challenges, which were those definitions, which were the colors of the zoning districts in the industrial zone, and also us getting the consistent language with state law. So it's a lot. It's kind of complicated. We can talk about anything, but that really concludes staff presentation at this point. And through the chair, whether it's the public or even me or even commissioners, will ask the chairwoman Vargas for permission to speak and let her conduct the meeting. So that concludes my presentation, Chairman Vargas. Chairwoman.
Thank you, Tevin, for the report. At this time,
I'd like to open the item for public hearing at 7:09. If there's anybody in the public that would like to speak on the item, comment, or ask questions, it's your time at this moment. Anybody online that has a public comment?
No one via Zoom.
I'll go ahead and close the public comment at 7:10. Okay. At this time, do we have anybody from the commission that? Commissioners, do you have any comments, questions, or that you'd like to share?
Alex says.
I would like some
Alex?
elaboration if possible, please. I would like some elaboration if possible. When you talk about very, very low versus H2A, how H2A wouldn't count. If we put H2A there, and you're gonna have to forgive me because I'm a chess player, so I like to think of multiple ideas. Can we put low income where it's like 7A or 7B over on the other side? Since we require more, because those are considered moderate. So by making them very low, you could fit more people there.
Well, in the Diorigo pieces there, 138 acres, even though it looks like nice row crops right now, the color of the zoning map has single family as well as that R2 zoning in different areas in there. So there are some areas within that area that are designated R2. And the changes to R2 say you could build as many as 20 units per acre instead of as many as 16. But there's I didn't quite understand. You were asking if.
So,
apartment
for
density
example, you
versus-
said that if we build H2A houses over there, that those don't count towards our numbers of the 173 units.
If we built H2A anywhere in the city, it would not count
Right.
because it's not 12 months out of the year and around the calendar permanent housing. It's for a different purpose.
Okay, so is H2A pretty much done now? Or
No, is it can be proposed in places. It just doesn't give the city any credit towards its regional housing needs assessment. Just like there's going to be in the Vista Lucia, 3,500 homes proposed. The state
Okay.
is saying hey, you need to do your best to show enough land for 1,266. And we'll do that in our city and with extra right there, but there's a proposal for more housing. And so supplemental housing such as H2A could be proposed. Anybody that's going to propose something like that, though, they have just development standards that you need. Do you have sewer connections? Do you have water connections? Do you have enough electricity? Do you have access to the roads? And the city would evaluate for public safety, like walking across streets, and do they have access to transportation and shopping? That goes with any multifamily review that we would do.
I have a question similar, well, attached to that, that goes along with that. Where right now is H2A allowed within the city? Where is it zoned? Is it?
You would need a higher density zone project, so an R2 area.
R2 is,
Uh,
so if an
Like
R2
the
is
Tesla
available,
Project that's on Fano right
Yes.
there off of Fifth, that's a R2 zoning and it looks like that. It's about 2-story apartments. Behind the, what's the grocery store? Huh?
Santa Fe?
Santa Fe, but the houses just north of Santa Fe behind, those whole district, there's apartments and higher density house, that's R2 right now in that district, and then it breaks into the more traditional.
So H2A is allowed in R2.
Those densities are allowed in R2. So those densities are not necessarily allowed in R1, right? Now would be too many. But yet, someone here asked for a density bonus and get density bonuses for things, but not necessarily we couldn't look among our peers of the state and say, look, we built 50 units and we've met some of our RENA standards, but we could also still look, there's 50 units.
Okay, so for example, and I'm sorry if I'm taking
go
off the
ahead.
microphone,
Through the chair, yeah.
but on parcels 1 through 6,
Uh-huh.
they could build 20 units per
Acre.
acre.
And those lots are about 2 acres apiece, and 20
Correct.
is the least dense. You have to start at 20 and you could go as high as 30. And so one of the things I also changed was not just the number from 16 to 20, but I added a story
Okay,
that you can do it in 3 stories. Because my hope is if someone's going to build a nice apartment complex, that you're going to use the ground floor for parking off the street. And then maybe have, the 2 units. So is it for seniors? Is it for people that don't like stairs? Probably not, but for folks to have apartments while they're trying to earn their way to buy a mortgage and get a house, it might be a really great thing.
Gloria?
On chapter 12, you've added low barrier navigation. What is that?
One of the new things added is called low barrier navigation. And that is a very interesting thing and we'll need to work at it right here. So low barrier navigation is if someone finds themselves homeless, like they can't afford their rent or they're kicked out, or maybe like that apartment scenario I shared where they're doing a modification. There's supposed to be a way that through a good office environment in connection with available housing and available programs elsewhere, that we try to reduce the barriers to these people getting into a house immediately again, or getting into a home. And frankly, in the city of Gonzales, it's tough because we haven't had new roofs. We haven't had the new roofs. We really don't have that. I don't know how many times I've had people come in the front lobby and they need help and services. And I do my best. I've got all kinds of sheets and cards and referring them to a lot of nonprofits or the United Way that are in Salinas. But we don't have, even like hotel rooms with vouchers for temporary stays. But a low barrier navigation center is a big fancy name for trying to have a one place for someone that's recently become homeless, find shelter as best we can. And so it might be that we're effective, but it might be that, they need a good ride to Soledad, where maybe that unit's available. Thank you, Kunsa.
Thank you.
Elliot, do you have anything?
I just had a question on H2A. If there was an ordinance passed in Gonzales to not allow H2A, therefore they would not allow it in R2 zoning either, right?
You're gonna do a global thing, it's gonna be a global thing. I don't know how to quite answer that. You're asking me to speculate.
Oh, no, well, currently they would only allow H2A housing in R2, right?
They could, on the areas right next to the city that are agriculture allows agricultural based housing for their workers, okay? The deal, so like when we had the proposal before, that was an allowed use. that you could build H2A or even just domestic worker housing on agricultural land. But they would need city utilities. And at that time, the city utilities were so tight, and we're thinking about our specific plan, we're thinking about other affordable housing and the pipes and the cost, and basically there's other people in the front of the line, and we're working on our sewer district and everything, so the city is not obligated to extend its utilities outside of town. They're not. But that's interesting, right? The agricultural areas around the town are allowed to have agricultural housing.
That was my question. Thank you for asking that, because that was my question. In what, within the city limits, not county, unincorporated area, within city limits of Gonzales, we do not allow H2A, is what you're saying, to confirm. Correct?
I think the right way to say that is we don't have.
We don't have a zone, it's not allowable use for anywhere in,
R2 is if someone designed something that was 20 units an acre,
no, well, H2A is specific.
no, we don't have any regulations for who you are or what you are. It's your structure.
So
It's a development state.
to clarify, H2A housing is allowable within city limits. If it's,
Not every,
no, but in R2.
have to find the right available land to do it, and we don't have that land.
Well, we don't have land, but if land became available in R2, they would be able to build it there.
Someone could propose an apartment complex or whoever up to 20 units per acre.
But I think we would still have to approve it.
Have to rezone it.
Or
No, it wouldn't have to be rezoned. It would,
So if it is that zone, it would be that, and part of these regulations are that we're as permissive as possible.
so the only way to avoid that is possibly by passing an ordinance, not allowing H2A housing within city limits. Is that correct?
You probably want to speak with your elected leaders and see what kind of effort you want to put behind that.
Okay.
And-
oh.
Sorry,
Through the chair.
just a last minute question. I'm not too worried about electricity because new units require solar, but can our infrastructure handle the sewage for 30-unit apartment complexes? And can our not only sewage, but utilities such as water and trash, can they handle?
As you
that
may know,
capacity.
the city is well underway right now with an industrial wastewater treatment plant. Because right now our industrial water users are sending that water that is so clean to our existing domestic plant that the sewer, it doesn't work too much. They need their own industrial treatment. And so that's underway. That's funded. Pipes are being put in the ground for industrial wastewater treatment. And what that does, Commissioner Ramirez, is the industrial users would now be able to use the industrial treatment plant. And that would free up about 1 million gallons of capacity at our existing sewer plant that's serving everybody right now. So by them using their new facility, it would free that up. But what we're also going to do is when one of those sections is freed up, we're going to revamp it section by section with modern 2025 regulations, not 1980s stuff. And so a lot of things in the works. And, we've kind of done the rate systems and trying to do all the finance systems through rates to pay for that. Electricity is a thing though. It's not that it's expensive or prohibitive, but you gotta make your request early and years ahead with PG&E.
Adrian,
I should have
do
brought it
you,
up a little bit more on H2A. Wasn't expecting that.
Yeah. Adrian, do you have anything?
Yeah, I've got a question in and around a table here on my sheet for the RHNA summary. I don't know if you, the RHNA summary. In terms of the required very low, moderate and above average homes. It looks like the Vista Lucia project kind of answers all those buckets in the amount of housing.
Yeah.
Am I reading this correctly?
I think I've heard it calculated that, make it 80% of those numbers for us.
With the one project?
Yeah.
So it's 8.
Now, one thing to think about though, too, is this housing element has a 8-year horizon, which we're 2 years into, right? So it's only got about 6 years left. The Vista Lucia project, when it comes, is 3,500 homes. And if we're lucky enough to have 100 or 150 constructed each year, you're still looking at 20 years plus of construction.
Right.
And so, that's a lot of construction, but I'm really excited about that project. That's not what we're talking about here today, but in an environment of a world of supply and demand, Gonzales has had no supply. We've been looking in the corners and the cracks with these ADUs where we can fit a house, and that's been property owner by property owner that decided to give mom and dad a house in the back, and the kids live up front, or a good friend or neighbor or relative. We've not built new housing. And so to have a housing development that provides 30 years of continuous construction at different affordability rates, that's gonna modify and moderate some of our existing housing needs. Think about it. So this is a little sidebar here, but if you've got 3 generations in a house right now, and all of a sudden we've got a new apartment complex that's built in Vista Lucia. If Nana and Papa can now get an apartment and leave the house with the kids and the young ones here to have a little more elbow room, that's great. So there's going to be this moving around of people that are even saving up. Oh, I've lived in this house for 20 years. I've been looking for the new stuff. I'm going to go buy myself a new one. And that leaves one available in the city. All right, going to be quiet because that's not what we're talking about. Commissioner Vargas, did you want to go to maybe the last slide again, Estella, to kind of give a placeholder on the resolutions we're going to ask for motions on?
Yes, but before that, I do have,
Please.
the overlay is something new.
Yes.
I've never heard of it before. Well, I've higher density and all of that, but we're gonna have to rezone that area, right? The industrial area
On those spots.
on those 6 lots. How are the property owners? I'm just curious if we have anybody that is okay with that. I'm just kind of wondering what is their perspective?
I can beg your pardon for a moment. Mr. Gurley, would you care to address? Oh. Would you like to inform the chair? Would you like to inform staff through the microphone on,
Yes, please.
thank you very much. This is an information item.
Thank you. For the record, Matt Gorley here on behalf of AVO. We've got 6 acres in the industrial park, and a conversation early on with Tatburn when I learned of this zoning overlay. I can't imagine anybody, even anybody here with concern of housing, wanting to be in the industrial park. I wouldn't put my kids there, so I wouldn't expect anybody to put their kids there with ammonia leaks, with a fertilizer plant, with some wind turbines. There's just a lot of heavy things going on out there, and I wouldn't want any possibility of contamination with any residents of the city of Gonzales being out in the industrial park. And that's why we created it, and that's why it's on the other side of the tracks. And I wouldn't want that to come to fruition for anybody to live out there, stay out there. And that's why we created it. I believe Delia was on the council when we brought in the ag park, and that's why we placed it over there. So to expect anybody to live over there, I wouldn't want that for anybody. I know it's vacant land. I know we have to meet our arena numbers. Housing allocation numbers has been a big thing. AMBAG is actually 3 counties. It's Santa Cruz County, San Benito County, and Monterey County. And there's been several lawsuits that have flown over the years, and gosh, I hate to say it, maybe 30 years of public service and dealing with housing allocation numbers on AMBAG. And everybody not taking their fair share. Monterey thinking that they could not have to house their service community, the people that work in their hotels and their house cleaners and the construction people. And that's why we have the traffic problems. I mean, there's so many things to look at. And but I think a lot of it, the reason that Gonzales has their RENA numbers handed to them was, I think it's all derived and starts with the census, right? It's the education of our people. It's the wage earners that live in Gonzales. There's just so many factors to putting in these numbers, and then it's negotiated by somebody other than our elected officials. And that's why we're stuck with our RENA numbers. But all we have to do is show planning for them in order for us to keep our state dollars. We don't have to ever build these units because it's not up to the elected officials to build the units. It's up to the property owners, and there's not any property owners that are going to be building out there in the industrial park because this land is too valuable for industrial and commercial. It's not, it's nothing. It's too hard to get that commercial industrial land, and jobs, I think, mean more than housing today. We need to bring jobs to our community so we have a stronger tax base. We need houses. There's no doubt we need houses, but as John DiRigo says, you know, he's got how many, 135 acres out here?
3, so 138. Yeah.
138 acres. And John DiRigo says, I don't grow houses, I grow broccoli. So he doesn't want to grow houses out there because nobody's got the money to buy that property from him. And we don't know if that'll ever happen. So it's a sorry day for Gonzales that isn't already in houses. But it needs to be. The land is less fertile as you move to the east, and that's how LAFCO has directed all of the cities to grow, is to the east, because it's less fertile land out of the prime ag land for the county. But I don't know if that answered your question or not, but I don't foresee anybody having any problem. I talked to a couple of the other landowners in the industrial park, just with the understanding this is just a simple overlay, that the chances of housing actually being built there, the land is too valuable for commercial industrial.
If I could add, is when the Vista Lucia project is approved, actually, we could rescind or take away this workforce housing overlay, and we'd still be inconsistent with having enough capacity shown to meet our numbers.
Okay.
But that, at that point, though, that would be more of a property owner decision, whether they want to keep it on there or retire it, but it's.
Right. I mean, several of the state sites, exactly where we're building the community center, that would have been a nice place for, you know, 3- and 4-story housing project. The state or county housing at the north end of town, 8th and 9th, Alta, Belden, back to center, that existing county housing authority property, that would be great for 3-story.
And now with the
living.
R2, they could take that to 3 stories
Yeah.
instead of the 1-story flats that they have.
But it could also be H2A. H2A needs to be a part of our community because H2A is definitely allowed within our city limits. I have never heard anything else. It needs to be here. But it's a matter of servicing it. We don't have the services. I don't want to see built outside the city limits because I don't want to see our services extended out.
Right.
But there's several other issues with H2A housing, but I believe we need those workers in Gonzales. I think it helps us all. But I don't know why we're stuck with what the founding fathers gave us at this point. So it's not going to get there.
Thank you. My only comment is to that, is I wanted to see the perspective from the property owners. Is it something that they're even willing to consider if we do this overlay? Because that would be my main concern. If I had a family member that, if they were build units, I would not want, just like you, I would not want my family member living so close to an area that, again, pesticides. So that was my concern. Thank you. we can go ahead and move into commission action now.
Believe so.
So if we can go ahead and we're gonna approve one by one. So if I can get a motion for resolution number PC 2025-07, a resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of Gonzales recommending that the City Council approve common sense exceptions to the California Environmental Quality Act as supported by the Housing Element Updated CEQA Exemption Technical Memorandum prepared in February of 2025. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve resolution PC 2025-07.
Do we have a second?
A second?
Sorry. And vote by everybody?
Aye.
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 Approved? Second, resolution number PC 2025-08, a resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of Gonzales recommending that the City Council of the City of Gonzales approve General Plan Amendment 2025-01, making findings under CEQA, amending the land use element of the general plan, adopting the 2023 through 2031 housing element update. Do I have a motion?
I motion to approve PC 2025-08.
I'll se-
Oh, I'm sorry.
Gloria, second by Gloria. And do I have a vote by everybody?
Aye.
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 Approved. Last resolution, resolution number PC 2025-09, a resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of Gonzales recommending to the City Council to adoption and ordinance making findings under CEQA and amending Title 12, the zoning regulation with associated zoning map and text changes to implement the new six-cycle housing element. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve 2025-09.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Vote, yes, no, by everybody?
Approve.
Approve.
Aye.
I vote
Aye.
yes.
That was five to the positive.
Yes,
Okay. Observe.
resolution approved.
Wow, thank you very much. You've made three solid recommendations to the city council. That's wonderful. And through the chair, that public hearing item is done now, and you're moving on to oral communications from the planning commission.
Business from the Planning Commission. Does anybody have any oral communication, like to share anything? Or have any comments?
Something about the redwoods? About the redwoods? No. just-
Oh. It was nice.
No?
Right.
Anything, any business, next item, any business from our Community Development Director? Tavin, do you have anything?
Well,
You like to-
we're, with your actions today, we can put public notice out for city council final action on this, and we expect that to be considered August 4th. So I'll be putting that notice out, so they'll be taking your recommendations, and we'll put the resolutions in the language of the city council, and maybe by that time, instead of presenting for an hour, maybe I'll have it down in 30 minutes. So I'll try to be a little more fluent there, but, right. And then following that, we anticipate taking the Vista Lucia plan to city council. So this is under my business from the community development director, on August 18th is what we're going to target for that. And, for all those of any of you that have been following that, that's, maybe, Mr. Gurley can attest to this, a 18-year effort for specific plan and that additional housing adjacent to the city of Gonzales. And this would be the last public hearing at the city level after all that work and the pre-approvals of which you were instrumental in giving the 6 resolutions on March 10th. And, Once the city council acts that evening, if it's in the affirmative, we'll pack it up in a box and we will take it to Salinas for the local agency formation commission to consider expanding our city limit line around those county areas to accommodate the Vista Lucia project. So that would be a large addition to the city. And there's a map proposed that's about 1/4, or a subdivision map about 1/4. So it'll probably come in pieces over the years. So that's coming up. Otherwise, my city and my department here, we're still having vacancy with the new development technician. So we're trying to work on that capacity. And we're also trying to do our best here to enhance and support economic development and buying local in Gonzales in any way that you can. The commercial market, the retail market is getting really tough. Some businesses are closing or seeing big declines. And we're hoping that we can do our best to keep Gonzales dollars flowing within Gonzales. And so you might see some more efforts from the Economic Development Division of my office in the coming days. So nothing further to report after that. Thank you.
Thank you, Taban. At this moment, I'd like to have anybody who wants to make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I make a motion that we adjourn our meeting at, 7:40?
I'll second it.
Motion approved,
No-
meeting adjourned.
No second on that.
Yeah, Delia.
All right.
Adjourn meeting.
That concludes our meeting this evening.
Thank you so much.
Alex, I think you'll make your plane. I think you'll make your plane flight.
No, Delia. She,
Oh, you're making your plane.
she's,
I'm sorry, I got the wrong line.
she's the one.
Met with both of them, but